Baker Mayfield had a decent year this past season, ranking tied for 11th out of 35 in expected points added, which if you don't know what that stat is, I have a video that breaks it down. It's one of the best stats around because it's useful in evaluating quarterbacks, offenses, and defenses, so it's super versatile. In addition to expected points added, though, he was 18th in quarterback rating. His supporting cast, which is based on the PFF grades of his receivers and pass blocking, was ranked dead average at number 16, so in all, he ranked as my 17th best quarterback, or just ever so slightly below average. At backup quarterback, Kyle Trask is an intriguing option, as he hasn't played since being drafted in the second in 2021, and John Wolford has appeared solid in some showings and been very poor in others as well, so they have a decent room. It's not the most ideal, but Mayfield is definitely a serviceable quarterback, and they have some backup options as well. As we shift to the supporting cast, make sure you like the video and subscribe for more, because I'm going to be pushing out a ton of videos. With that said, though, the offensive line for Tampa was very poor. They were 22nd in pass block win rate and 32nd in run block win rate, which are ESPN stats. Compared to last year, they should be improved. Center Graham Barton was drafted in the first, and since 2019, rookie first-round interior offensive linemen have a 59 PFF grade, which is better than Robert Hainsey's 50 grade from last year. Their excellent tackle duo gets another year of development too, as Tristan Wirfs enters year 5 and Luke Goedeke enters year 3, so they should hopefully be continuing to improve, which is a great thought because they're already tremendously good. Lastly, Ben Bredesen replaces Matt Fowler, which is actually a downgrade as Bredesen earned a 42 PFF grade, which is awful, compared to Fowler's 55 grade, which is bad, but far more respectable. Their depth is alright on the interior, but not at tackle. Sua Opita is a fine backup guard, and Robert Hainsey is a solid backup center because he's an alright pass blocker, but that's it. They don't really have much beyond that. Regarding their weapons, they're very top heavy, but that's not the worst thing in the world because when it comes to receivers, you're as good as your strongest options are, and they have pretty good threats there. Mike Evans continues his excellent run of 1,000+ yard seasons as he was 13th in yards per game and 10th in yards per reception. So he's a great deep downfield winner. He is great at contested catches. They're not 50-50 balls with him. They're more like 60-40. So he is a really nice deep downfield contested catch winner, which still does have value. It's nice to be able to win as a route runner, but it's also good to be able to bail your quarterback out when there's just nobody really open, and Mike Evans excels in that regard. Chris Godwin is a great complementary piece to Evans because he's more of a route runner than Evans is, so they play very nicely off each other, with Evans being super physical and Godwin being a little bit more finesse. Godwin had a very good year too, being 30th in yards per game and 48th in yards per reception, so he's more of the chain mover than Evans is, but Evans is also great on slant routes and things of that nature that are more beating your guy at the line of scrimmage and quickly winning. So Evans and Godwin are a very good duo together. Where things kind of fall off a bit is with their third option, Trey Palmer. He was 131st in yards per game, which is really not good, and 96th in yards per reception, which is fine. That is respectable for a third option. You obviously have 32 teams and 3 starting wide receivers on each team, so he was last for the third options, but there are some good fourth options out there, so that's also accounting for tight ends and running backs, which you don't really have to factor in running backs too much for yards per reception, but there are some great tight ends like George Kittle that really excel in yards per reception, so that pushes Palmer down a bit as well. Speaking of tight ends, Cade Otton isn't a great tight end, but he is serviceable enough, being 26th in yards per game among tight ends and 23rd in yards per reception among tight ends. Moving to running back, this is another issue they have. Rashad Wright was 41st out of 59 halfbacks in PFF grade, so he isn't much of anything. Depth-wise, Jalen McMillan was drafted in the 3rd, and since 2019, rookie 3rd-round wide receivers average a solid 65 PFF grade, which is much higher than Trey Palmer's 53 grade, so there's a chance McMillan overtakes him. Additionally, Bucky Irving was drafted in the 4th. If Rashad White continues to disappoint, I could see a world in which Irving overtakes White, so that could be an upgrade for them. Irving was really good at Oregon, so that's a good start to his career because running backs do really tend to perform while translating between college and the pros. So Irving being great in college is a good start to things. At cornerback, the Bucs are solid. Jamel Dean ranked 26th out of 127 corners in PFF grade. He has awesome athleticism at 6'1" and is super physical in press coverage and against the run. So he is one of the high-end number 1 corners in the NFL. I know he's 26th, but he has a lot of difficult assignments that he performs well in, and there are just so many solid number 2 cornerbacks as well in the league, so being 26th means you're actually a pretty high-end number 1. Someone that isn't so high-end, though, is Ian McCollum, who was graded 114th by PFF. He's very good against the run at 6'2", 200 pounds, but he has struggled in coverage as his rank would suggest. So he's not good in the areas you want to be good at. It's obviously preferable to be good in coverage as compared to being good against the run as a cornerback, and he's kind of backwards from that. Tyke Smith was drafted in the 3rd to be their nickel cornerback. The average cornerback drafted in the 3rd gets a 63 PFF grade their rookie year, which would be good for 76th among cornerbacks, so there's a chance that Smith can be a solid year 1. At safety, they are exceptional. Antoine Winfield Jr. ranked 1st out of 95 safeties in PFF grade. He was top 10 in pass rushing, coverage, and run defense, and played 150 snaps or more in the box, at slot cornerback, and free safety. So he is hyper versatile, and he's just fantastic at everything. I think he might be in contention for being the most underrated player in the league because people who know ball understand that he's really good, but I think the average fan doesn't truly understand that, and that in large part has to deal with the fact that he plays for Tampa. So he doesn't get talked about nearly as much as he should. He is exceptional. As their other safety, Jordan Whitehead was graded 39th, according to PFF. Like Winfield, Whitehead played all over the place, logging 200 or more snaps in the box, at nickel corner, and free safety. Whitehead is solid against the run and pass, too, so he's another do-it-all safety, which is really nice to have these chess pieces that can just do a little bit of everything, because the modern offense is so versatile. It's nice to have pieces like that on your defense as well. Regarding their defensive back depth, they have a lot of it. Christian Izien is a very solid slot cornerback that defends the run exceptionally and is good against the pass too. Tavier Thomas is another option at slot cornerback. He's also great against the run and good again in coverage too. Lastly, Bryce Hall is a good outside corner that hasn't played consistently since 2021, but was good in 2021 and 2020. So they have some options at cornerback and defensive back as a whole. Their defensive back core is really solid. It's, again, not talked about super much as being one of the better in the league, but I would say that it is, even though they do have some weaknesses, which is not ideal because you're only as good as your weakest link is for defensive backs, but I like their defensive back core as a whole. On the D-line, Tampa is okay, but it's definitely not a strength of theirs. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka finished tied for 78th out of 122 in edge pressures. He played limited snaps, but that's not the most inspiring stat. He's a solid run defender, though, so he does have something going for him. Crazily enough, Yaya Diaby ranked 78th for edge pressures as well. Diaby is a good run defender, but at least one of Tryon, Shoyinka, or Diaby will need to take a step up if Tampa is going to have any pass rushing success this year, because you just can't have below average guys as both of your edge rushers and be a good pass rushing team. You do have excellent coaching with Todd Bowles as a blitzing guru, so that should minimize how much you need your defensive line to generate pressure, because you're going to be blitzing other people that can help with that. But still, you would like to be able to get some pressure on your base 4 rush as well, and you're just not going to be able to do that at a high rate if your edge rushing duo is not too proficient. On the interior, though, things are a lot more exciting. Kalijah Kancey was a complicated eval this year. He finished tied for 35 out of 142 in defensive interior pressures despite missing 3 games, but he was perhaps the worst run defending defensive interior in the NFL, so he needs to clean that up a good bit to be a truly proficient professional. But I like the start to his career. He was expected to be a good pass rusher and struggle against the run, and he has fit that to a T. He, like I said, he is extreme in both regards, but if he can just be a little bit more balanced, he could truly be one of the best defensive interiors in the league. Another person that's among the best defensive interiors in the league, Vita Vea, the more recognizable name probably, is a stud all around. He was 42nd for defensive interior pressures and is a really good run defender too. He is just somebody that doesn't get pushed off the line of scrimmage basically at all, and he can shoot gaps with some proficiency as well because he's surprisingly athletic for as big of a person as he is. So he is a nice piece to have, and he really plays nicely off of Kancey because Vea does help minimize just how much Kancey struggles against the run. As for their depth on the defensive line, William Golston is a very solid rotational defensive interior. Additionally, Logan Hall is an alright defensive interior, but he struggles against the run a good deal. He was 72nd in defensive interior pressures, though, so he has some redeeming qualities. At edge, Chris Braswell was drafted in the 2nd. Since 2019, edge rushers drafted in the 2nd average a 62 PFF grade their rookie year, which would be about exactly what Yaya Diaby had, as he earned a 61 grade this year. So they have a competent defensive line, but they're going to need somebody to step up for it to really be a strength of theirs. The linebacking core for the Bucs is pretty good. Lavonte David remains excellent at age 34, as he ranked 25th out of 82 linebackers in PFF grade. He was top 30 in run defense, pass rush, and coverage, so he really gets it done in every way imaginable. He's sort of like Antoine Winfield Jr. of the linebackers, where he's just really solid at everything. It kind of falls off a bit, though, with their second linebacker. KJ Britt didn't play enough to get a PFF ranking, but he improved the linebacker core a lot from when Devin White was playing. Britt is a bit undersized at just 6 foot tall, but he moves well and is a good run defender. He appeared solid in coverage too, in limited snaps, so he's somebody to watch out for. He's not a guaranteed to be good, but he possibly could be. It is a bit worrisome that he is just 6 foot tall, because linebacker is a position where height does actually kind of matter, and wingspan as well. I'm not sure what his wingspan is, but just gauging off of his 6 foot height, I wouldn't imagine it's all that great. You need that height and wingspan to be able to clog up passing lanes, as it could be the difference an inch or two between deflecting a pass or it being completed rather easily. So it is a little bit lacking for Britt in that regard, but he looks like somebody with some potential. The depth at linebacker is non-existent, as no one is an obvious linebacker 3 for them, so they're going to need Britt and David to stay healthy, and Britt to be a solid contributor for their linebacker core to be good. In all, Tampa isn't a good team, but they have chemistry and are well coached on defense. Baker Mayfield is roughly an average quarterback, so he needs a good deal of help to truly compete, but he doesn't necessarily have it in Tampa. His O-line will likely remain an issue, albeit not a massive one if they're able to take a step forward. Weapons-wise, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin is a really good duo, and that's mainly all you can count on for them, though. Defensively, their cornerbacks are solid, and their safeties are about as good as anyone's. The defensive line is a bit of an issue, which gets mitigated some by their blitzing, but they need someone to take a step up for their pressure to really get in. Lastly, Levante David is a beast, and KJ Britt showed promise, so their linebacker duo might be a real strength for them. But again, their front seven is kind of iffy. We don't really know exactly how good it's going to be. Those are my thoughts on the Buccaneers. Be sure to let me know what yours are in the comment section below, and also be sure to like and subscribe for more NFL content.